interesting. Welcome to Black Economics TV. We're here today with Nichole McGill-Higgins. Lovely to have you, Nichole. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
You have an accent E at the end. Is it Nichole?
That's all I know. Apparently so.
Really?
Apparently so. So when I have like European people that speak to me, they will always say, especially if it's French or Italian, they will pronounce it Nichole. And I'm like, yeah, we can roll with that. We can do that. I like that.
Yeah, nice. Well, welcome. Now, you are an amazing person. You are doing so much with corporates and with other people that she helps. So I'm going to turn the mic over to her now and ask her to introduce herself. What do you do, Nichole?
What do I do? Do you know something? This question gets me every single time. What do I do when you do so much? I would say to the moment, I concentrate on doing is confidence and assertiveness and in the workplace, that is. So in the corporate world, what I do, my best-selling program is confidence and assertiveness for women in the workplace. And that's really off the back of my belonging header. So my business is around belonging. I go into organizations, I do a belonging roadmap, which is around how do people feel in your work, what's their lived experiences. And with that, what came a lot was around communication, psychological safety, but then the women were stepping forward, and I realized that there was a gap there around how we negotiate, how we feel in the workplace, where is our confidence, where's our self-worth, where's our confidence even in our abilities. So that's my best-selling program at the moment. Overall, in the corporate world, I do belong. And then the other business I do is channeling my Mistress, which is women stepping into their sensuality and their sexuality. And yeah, so we could talk more about that. We could talk more about that a little bit later. But yeah.
Okay, good. So this is how Nichole describes herself on LinkedIn. And I'm going to say it's a very powerful profile, by the way.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Great confidence meets feminine power. Former informed master coach, helping women lead with presence, purpose and authority, catalyst for belonging and visibility, keynote speaker, and creator of Courage to Be. And that's be with 2 E's. Well done, Nichole.
Thank you. Thank you. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, where is she? Who are we talking about? Where's she?
Well, I think you have an amazing description.
Thank you.
Where confidence meets feminine power. I want to explore that.
Absolutely. Whereas what I've noticed, so going back to what I was saying around women in the workplace, it's very masculine orientated. They're in male dominated spaces. And what I get back, especially from coaching, from facilitating, from speaking, is that we code. So we try to match that space. And if you think about history, women wasn't allowed to work. And in the 60s, I remember my mum saying she couldn't buy a fridge without her husband, without my dad. She couldn't buy a fridge. So, the corporate world has been going on for decades, centuries, whatever. When we've stepped into it, there's already a code. It's systemic, it's institutionalized, right? So when you think about women, our feminine essence, our feminine power is being submerged. It's being not eradicated, but it's being hidden. And there's times I've felt this in the corporate world. If I'm training 10 senior leaders, because a lot of my work, I train and coach senior leaders, because they're the ones that will be deciding what happens in the organization, right? So if I'm training 10 senior leaders, 2 of them are women in the room, I'm feeling all the masculine energy. Let's not get it twisted. When we talk about energy, masculine and feminine energy, we're talking yin and yang, we're talking balance. So we're not talking gender here. We're talking what's our energy. So you can walk into a room and you can feel the energy. You can feel if you're welcomed. You can feel if you belong. You can feel if I'm not sure if I like this space. So that's the energy that we're talking about. So for example, I could say, you know what, we like to thrive. That's more masculine language. Or I could say, we want to flourish. That's more feminine language. So when we talk about energies, I find that lots of women are masculine, myself included. I've got a lot of masculine energy, been in corporate spaces for many, many years. So what the Courage to Be does, especially when we talk about the feminine side or the women in the workplace, what I'm talking about is bring your feminine essence, bring your feminine power, look at the balance. If you was to look at a scale, right, this is imbalanced, and that's imbalanced. To get to here, you either have to take something off or put something on. If we're rolling in just masculine energy, and we're masking because it's like I've got to be like my boss, or I've got to be like how I've seen it on the TV, we're not bringing our primal instinct of our feminine essence. So that's what we talk about there. And I hope that's kind of answered it, but I feel that we misfire with it a lot because we don't want to be seen as, oh, you're so girly, oh, you're so emotional, oh, you're so sensitive. We need all of that. If you look at, and the best way also to describe it, look at men with their children. There's that masculine side, but there's also that, are you okay? It's that beloved side, it's that motherly side.
Caring.
Exactly. And that's that empathetic side that's missing. So for me, when we think also, you can go into meetings, what's the KPIs, what's the deadlines, but also how are the people feeling? What do we need to take off for them to be able to get this work done? That's your feminine essence. That's your feminine power. Men have it, need it, women have it, need it. But I just find that my experience in the corporate world is just missing. It's just missing on both sides, to be fair. So yeah, so that's kind of what that is. Am I looking at the camera properly?
Yeah, you're doing fine looking at me.
Yeah. So you're so good at this.
Another statement you gave was that trauma-informed master coaching is another thing that you do. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
And it's so funny because I don't know about you do, but everyone's kind of like a coach at the moment, which is brilliant because coaching's phenomenal. And I started out as a mentor. I've always coached because I've always been a manager. I think if you're a manager, even if you're kind of a leader in your friendship group, we end up coaching. Coaching's really about asking, not telling, right? But I'd always been a manager, so I'd always coached and coached and coached. You just coach your team, right? But I'd also mentored. And when I won my first award, it was for National Mentor of the Year in 2019.
Oh, wow.
And that just blew me away, absolutely blew me away. And I wanted to do coaching. I actually wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to be like Meet the Fockers.
Okay.
But then I realized that when you're doing sex coaching, for example, a lot of it can come from a dark place. And even though I do work a lot with violence against women and girls, and again, we can talk about that in a second, wanted to go into coaching because I realized that coaching was a visionary. I'm a visionary. I'm a kind of girl. Like, what do you want to do? Where are we going to be? Where are we going? But what I also noticed is that in the belonging space, and when I was talking about race a lot more, when I first started this particular journey, I was talking more around race and race equality in the workplace. And then I moved more onto belonging. And then that's where confidence came in. But trust me, Dawn, every single session that I've ever run, facilitated, workshop, stage that I've stepped on, I'm walking into trauma. And that's when I said, I need to understand what it is to be trauma informed. And I think that work actually came from violence against women and girls. And as a survivor of sexual assault myself, um, I started to do a lot of grassroots work and always have done. And I was sitting on a board for RASAC, which is a Rape Crisis Centre. And that's why I started to learn more around being trauma-informed, non-violent communication. And I was thinking, why isn't this being taught more with leaders and in the corporate world? And when I'm coaching you, the way we do one thing is the way we do everything, right? And if you lack of confidence in something and work, it's probably come from somewhere before there is. You don't just walk into work and, oh, I'm not confident anymore. It doesn't happen like that. So I realized that I felt that to do justice to the people I serve, being trauma informed was very, very important to me. Because if I'm talking about how do you feel like you've been gaslit, or how do you feel like you've got microaggressions, or how do you feel like you don't belong, it's usually from a place of rejection, which is potential trauma. So it could have come from a grandmother saying, you talk too much, children should be seen or not heard. Or it could have been from a partner who has said, why do you always, whatever it could have been from a manager, it could have been from a teacher. So potentially I'm triggering people in the room. So I personally felt the need to have a trauma-informed approach. And that's why I've always stacked up my skill set. Because if I say to you, Dawn, I'm a coach, come on, let me coach you. I want to know that I'm going to serve you and be the best coach I could possibly be. I don't know what's going to come into my room. So you might say, oh, Nichole, I just want business coaching. Okay. Well, or you could say, Nichole, I want to be a better public speaker. I can tell you the tools, what you need to be a better public speaker. If you don't have the confidence, and I don't know what's potentially happened behind me. You might come and say, Nichole, I used to be really confident. And then someone said to me X, Y, and Z. And that had just now triggered that trauma. It's now got me stuck and I'm not moving forward. So that's why I say I kind of interchange depending on my the work that I'm doing. It's just because the headline on LinkedIn was very small, because I do call myself Master Coach of Inner Power. That's what I really do go with. But I thought it was important to have trauma informed in my headline.
Yeah.
And because the words are so long, I had to choose between the two. So that's why on LinkedIn it says trauma informed coach, because I thought that was very important, because the fact that I do confidence and all the other things, that inner power piece would come through anyway. So that's why I came with the trauma informed, because it's important. It's really important to me.
Can you give me some examples of the trauma that people go through?
And you see, I don't know if in your world that you notice that word's being used a hell of a lot in my mind. And not apologizing for going dark, but it's also like rape. People sort of think we've got to be dragged on the street and abused. You know, people don't realize it's a matter of consent. No is a complete answer, right? So when we talk about trauma, it's not what's happened, it's how you deal with it. So we could be sitting here and we could see a car accident, and you could go about your day. I could be literally thinking about it, like how it's now affecting my body, how it's now affecting my thought processes. I could now turn around and say, I never want to cross the road again, or I'm never going to get in a black cab again because of what I've seen. And what that could then do, the trauma could be triggered through smells, it could be triggered through a song, it could be triggered through a place, it could be triggered through a name. And that's when we talk about those triggering things that can start. Which has now started that catalogue of memories that's now bringing me back to that place. And now my body is starting to shut down and remember that and go into survival mode. So it's really important that when we say, oh, that's so traumatizing, we can't say it with just a flick off, but then I can't then say you're not feeling traumatized, because it's your journey. And I have to accept and honor that, because I can't tell someone how to feel, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I talk a lot around impact and intent, or intent and impact, sorry. So my intention could be not to upset you, but the impact I have. And I can't now say to you, oh, Dawn, don't be silly, don't be so sensitive. I didn't mean to upset you. It doesn't matter what my intention was, what was the impact that landed. And also that's how I feel around the rooms I walk into. I've got to ensure that I've got a container, as I call it, that if I'm opening up stuff around confidence, around race, around how you feel, around how you're being treated, how you're rejected, how am I keeping my audience in a brave, contained space of safety? How do I do that? And I don't know everybody's story. So for me, that's one of the biggest things that I ground in my sessions. I've got 4 sides to me, as I call it, Dawn. I've got my masculine energy, I've got my feminine energy, I've got my spiritual side. I've stopped saying woo-woo now, because I'm proud of my moons and my law of attractions and my manifestations. And then I've got the sexual side. So those 4 parts of Nichole exists in one of my programs, which is Channel Your Inner Mistress. But we all have different parts of us that exist. How much of those are we hiding? How much of those are we ashamed of? How much of those are trauma driven? How much of those are happy spaces? It's really around having that inner power to know self. And that's where I go with all around trauma, like examples. Some of the examples of trauma that I've experienced in the coaching that I've done are horrific, absolutely horrific. I've had people come and say to me that they have been raped 4 times in 6 months when they came to the UK to do work, and they didn't have anywhere to live. I've had people say things like, my manager has said that I was shit at my job. So that has just stuck with them. And it's so funny how as humans stick to the negative. So if somebody said to me, if 9 people said to me, oh my God, I love your nails, you look really good today, I'll be like, thanks. One person said, boy, I don't think you should have worn that, it's a little bit, I'm going to remember that. Yeah. And that's what we do. So it's really around that power to know that what you think of me is your business. That's not my business. Because then what's going to happen? We're going to overthink it and go down this terrible rabbit hole of lack of self-belief. And some people are very good at manipulating and very good at making us believe their version of what they think of us. I feel like I've gone off track, but
No, it's fine. Can you give examples of some of the organizations that you work with as a speaker or doing workshops and training?
do you know something? I was thinking about this. And I need to actually put these on my website because I've been really fortunate. I've worked with an array of companies. I've worked with Body Shop. I've worked with UCAS. I've worked with third what you call it? I work with charities. I genuinely do. I know that they don't have loads of money, but I have different pricing scales for whatever. Um, God, I'm trying to think of who I've worked with. I was thinking about this the other day. I thought Interflora I've worked with Senko, I've worked with Media Republic, I've worked with, honestly, if you're asking for names, I need to start getting them. Because I was thinking, I've done some good stuff with some really good organizations.
Well, we can add them to the video later.
Yeah, because funny enough, I was saying to my peer, I think it was last year, to get all of their what do you call it, their logos. I'm still rubbish at that, because they should be on my website. Because I've been really fortunate. I have worked with some really big organizations and some medium ones and some smaller ones. But I'll be honest with you, Dawn, I knew that question would potentially come up. And I don't even know what some of my organizations do unless they're the big names. And I don't want to just name drop the big ones here because they're not more important than anyone I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Sometimes my longest standing client, if you ask me what they do, I could probably tell you a little bit, but it's almost like in my head, I'm changing the person. I want to change the culture of the organization to make sure that people feel like they belong. So I don't care what you do over there. What I care about is how you're treating yourself and how you're treating others. So it's like if even now my brain's scattering. I can remember the people, but the organizations. And some people have even said to me, because I'm that person, you'll mention an actor to me and I won't know. Tell me the movie, not the name of the actor. I'm so crap. And I've had people say to me, oh my God, you're working with them. And I'm like, who are they? Honestly, I'm like, yeah, oh, because it's also removing the ego because I'm dealing with people, right?
So looking at the business side of what you do, how do you do your marketing? How do people find you? Do you reach out to them or do they just find you somewhere?
So this is another thing. When I resigned from my job in the pandemic, and like I said, I started off doing race more, and then kind of went into belonging because I felt that belonging is a feeling. I'm really about embodiment. I didn't realize that at the time.
Oh, so you were doing diversity and inclusion, correct?
Yeah, I was doing race.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So when I resigned from my job, so basically, if you go back, what happens? I was working for an organisation. I was working for the CIPD, and they're like the professional body for HR in the UK, and they wanted one of the policy department wanted to start an employee resource group. Never heard of this before in my life, and they wanted to call it BAME, which irritated me. And they wanted to have this employee resource group because we had an LGBTQ group at the time was doing fantastically well in bringing visibility awareness. And I was quite offended. I remember seeing it on the intranet thinking, what the hell do they want to do race for? You want to open up that Pandora's box? No. And I just felt like it's going to be tokenistic. And I voiced that. And I had a fantastic conversation with the lady who was in policy at the time. And she was like, look, Nicole, we're doing a lot of roundtable talks with government. And we think it would be good to have a dedicated group that talks about race. And then they wanted to do others, not just race. It was in that moment, Dawn, that I thought to myself, do you know what? I can actually be a part of the problem or I can be a part of the solution. And I'm proud to say that I left a legacy there. And our group did amazing things. And this was before George Floyd. So you can imagine when George Floyd appeared, the reputation of the company that I was working for was huge because organizations were now looking to a professional body. What the hell do we do? Yeah. How do we map? And we were very instrumental in working with HR, with working the senior leaders, going into really emergency meetings and getting stuff done. And I do say, I'm proud to say the CIPD, they came out with a race hub, and I'm sure it still exists now, that you can go there and do stuff. Some people say that they're tokenistic, some people say they're disingenuous. I was there at the time, and it was something that we wanted to do, and it's something that we made sure that was done. So what happens is that because our senior leader, sorry, our I say our like I'm still there. Our CEO was the sponsor for our group. So our group at the time was called Embrace. And we chose that purposely because it's got the word race in the word embrace. It was embrace race. That's kind of like
Fantastic.
and I remember this, right, Dawn, this is so funny. I like taglines. I'm really anal about brands. That's why I've got the B and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I wanted a really powerful tagline for Embrace. And I went and watched Black Panther. I don't do Marvel. Everybody else in my family does. I'm a CSI type of girl. I like the crime channel.
Oh, I see.
My husband thinks I'm trying to kill him. I mean, I'm not, but you know.
Trying to get tips.
With those skills that you need later on in life. I mean, no, I never said that. Anyway, so I went and watched Black Panther, and right at the end, it's like when the credits go up, you know, you have to sit there because something good's going to happen. So right at the end, sorry, it was basically said, more connects us than separates us. And I was like, boom, that's it. So that was our tagline for Embrace. And I've always loved that. More connects us than separates us.
Yeah.
Because it does. And then what happened is that whenever Peter Cheese, who was the CEO, he would go and talk, and I'd sit down with him and I'm like, so Peter, I'm going to introduce you because you're our sponsor. Then I'm going to sit at the back and you do your magic like you do. I'm not going to talk. And he would always go up there, talk and say, over to Nichole. And I'd be looking at him from the back, going, what are we doing? So he pushed me to be a public speaker. He literally, even that guy, and he pushed me to be a speaker because I would tremble. Even now I get nervous, but I would tremble. It wasn't my thing. But when I'm in my flow, like anyone, when you know your shit, right, you do the shit. Simple as that. When you know it, and that's what I would say to anyone who's scared of public speaking. You know your craft. No one knows it better than you do. Whatever you're not meant to say, whatever you don't say on the day, it wasn't meant to be said.
Yeah.
Whoever doesn't hear it wasn't meant to hear it. Just step into your power and speak. And then what happened is I resigned. I resigned from the role. That was all voluntary. A lot of staff networks are, but I was getting visibility. People wanted me to come and speak. And I thought there could be a potential conflict of interest because I had my day job, which was really around sustainability and social impact. That was the department that I worked in at the time. So I resigned. And to be honest with you, Dawn, I was really fortunate. I just got booked for talks. I just kept getting booked. So I never ever advertised. I never had a reason to advertise. So in terms of finding me, and I wasn't even really using LinkedIn either. Because I was like, I'm not going on social media. I was that girl. Don't put my name on there. Don't put my picture on there.
Really?
And then, no, I had a massive argument with HR when I was at that organization. Because I don't know, it's like sometimes they want to change over where they put your picture next to your email. And I remember saying to her, if they want to know what I look like, tell them to come to my desk. I mean, it was huge. We were going back and forth. I was like, I'm not giving you my picture. I was that girl, right? And my sister did like a family tree thing. And I was like, don't put my children's pictures up there. Don't put my picture up there. And no word of a lie. When I left that organization for about 3 years, that HR lady used to message me and say, Nichole, just seen you in a magazine. Nichole, I've just seen a podcast. Nichole, because my picture was not everywhere, but in my space. Yeah. So if you put my name in Google now, I'm there. But at first, I didn't even want my picture out there. Let know my name. Like, are you insane? Like, no. So people just, again, if you want to be seen in your business, you're a walking advert. If you're stepping on stages, if you're delivering sessions, they're either going to like you or they're not. I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm not for everyone. And there's a lady called Avita Patel who's on LinkedIn. And I remember on Twitter before it was X, she put this quote up. I can never remember who quoted it, but I remember her putting it up. And it says, if you're everybody's cup of tea, then you're a mug. You're not here to be liked by everyone. It's as simple as that. And as soon as I started to believe it, I know it, and as soon as we start to believe it, what other people think of you, as I've said, it's not your business. You have to do you, right? So I became, I'd go on stages and people would either see me and like me or see me and not. Or some of them, they're just not ready for what I'm saying, or they're just at a conference and maybe they're more into AI or they're more into talent. And that's how I ended up getting.
Because you're quite radical, aren't you?
I would think so. I used to call myself, not used to, but on my LinkedIn, it used to be positive destruction.
Okay.
But I think I am. Because if you're talking about race, Dawn, there ain't no in between with that. You can't, I used to say to people, I say in my talks, just because I'm a black woman, you think this is easy for me to be telling you how to behave and how to treat us civilly, like what Martin Luther King was asking for us to do. You think this is easy? You think we should have to be saying, treat us better? It's, you have to have some gravitas to do this work. That's why I salute anyone in this space. I really, really do. And plus, you're challenging up. You're almost telling your direct reports you're doing this wrong. Potentially, some of them you're saying you're racist, you're sexist, you're homophobic. How do you do that when you want to just pay your rent or your mortgage? This it's not easy to do. So yeah, I would say, why do you say I'm radical? What is it?
I feel that it's likely that there are things that you're coming out for in these talks that they haven't heard before from other people.
Yeah.
Telling it like it is. Am
You
I
have
right?
to, right. Because the thing is, of course, everyone can jump on the bandwagon of, all like, oh, psychological safety, bring your whole self to work. Yeah, okay. What do you mean by that? Like we said before we started filming, you know how many parts Nichole has right about now? You want me to bring all of that? Bring my and there's parts that, I know that Michelle Obama politely said, when they go low, we go high. Sometimes I can get a bit petty and messy, When they go low, I'm going lower. I'm not gonna lie. Because sometimes you gotta go lower. I mean, I know it's messy. Her sons always say, Mommy, you're so petty. I'm like, no, sometimes I'm in that mood. Because if I go, hey, you're not seeing it. And there's another quote that always makes me giggle. You cannot argue with an idiot because they will beat you with experience and bring you down to their level. Sometimes there's some people that no matter what the hell you say, they're not getting it because they don't want to. And that's when I talk about values and beliefs. Values and belief in my coaching is absolutely huge, not just the trauma-informed Dawn values, because if your values and your integrity isn't in line with the work that you're doing, business that you're running, the job that you're in, you're going to have a massive conflict. And beliefs and values are very difficult to change, but we can change them. I was raised partly by my grandmother. There's certain beliefs that even now, I was saying this to my friend the other day, my nan always said, a man to have a good watch and clean, shiny shoes. So if that comes up to me like, before I was married, I'm like, I like your shoes, they're clean. Where's your watch? Where's your wallet? It's just certain little things that you were brought up with. And especially when you become a parent or an auntie, because not everyone has children, or a grandmother or a godmother, you realize that you're training these little people in the way that you were trained. Yeah. But I've also got to remember my nan was born in the 20s. She's no longer with us. So she's telling me stuff from way back. Yeah. So how do we evolve that? Yeah. How do we evolve? And then also we become our own people. I'm the only one in my family who was a single mother. And my family was very well to do, very hierarchical. Like the men would be in one room and the women in the other. The table was always set like it was in a restaurant. My mum always had the serving dishes. Whenever we was in Jamaica, we've got the drivers, we've got the gardeners, all of that stuff. I'm the one with the tattoos, the face piercings, the single mum. So I was always the black sheep. Excuse the pun. But that's why belonging, I think, meant so much to me when I heard that word. Like when I was doing the whole race stuff. I thought, this is more than my color. And I say this on stage all the time. Nobody has ever come up to me and said, how's your blackness? How's your gender? How's your sexuality? I always felt that I was the one that just didn't fit that mold of what my family's expectations were. The lawyers, the doctors, the this and the that. Yes, I went and got the education because it was drilled into us. Yes, I've got my master's. Yes, I've got my degree. But I always felt that rebelness. Hence I probably married Maverick with a name, someone a name like Maverick. I'm like, yeah, we could do this. But for me, also, when you realize that you are going against the grain of your family, the dishonor, oh my, it's difficult. That also hits your confidence because you now believe that one, you're not good enough. Two, you don't fit in. Because we're taught to fit in, we're not taught to add value.
Do you feel that way? Was it your mom, your dad, or
My mom,
your mom?
I think the essence of my family was like that. We're supposed to be a certain way. And I think that also came with the level of maybe wealth that they had, especially because I went to school in Jamaica. I went to private school in Jamaica, so I went to boarding school, right? And this the way that my family was, the reputation that they had, you should go to university, you should get married, that kind of just how society. And it's a societal thing that many families are raised into, right? So yeah, I think it was more like my family. Made us feel like, yes, we had to speak in a certain way, we had to behave in a certain way, we had to do certain things. But when you've got that rebel spirit, when you've got that primal bubbling and that fire, you're fighting against it.
Did she ever come round to your way of thinking?
I think when I started this business and then I started to win the awards and I wrote the book and that, now it's like, oh, look at my daughter, don't do that. That's rude. Yeah. It's like, don't do that. Don't do that now. You said, for me, my ride or dies is like when you have nothing. I think there's another quote that says you can judge a person's character the way they treat people when they don't expect anything back. Something like that. That's paraphrased. But that's how I look at it. So you know who's, but they always say that, don't they? You know who's in your corner when you're flat on your face or when you're not progressing, you're not succeeding. He's still got your back. And one of the other quotes that I love is be who you are and say what you want because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. And it reminds me of my nan in church. I was brought up in a Christian household because the bottom line is, Dawn, if I know how you are, I don't care how you are because I matter to you and I don't mind who you are. You always notice that once we mind how you are and have something to say, in the grand scheme of things, do they really matter? And sometimes people will say, well, yeah, because my mom or my dad feels like that and they matter to me. But yeah, for me, it was going against the grain, going against what we're taught.
Okay. So in terms of the services you offer, what's your pricing? How much do you charge to speak, for instance? How much do you charge for coaching?
So for me, all of that's bespoke in a certain way because executive coaching is going to be completely different. It depends on how much time they want, depends on also like length of time usually. I used to have it in the sense of it depends on where they are in the business in terms of what level, but that's just really one price. But I do need to know what's the length of time, what is the need, is there a need for coaching? Because we have to be mindful as coaches. Is it mentoring? Is it counseling? Is it coaching? Because they're very much interlinked. And as coaches, you're supposed to know when to signpost. You probably have people that probably need therapy, but what you would then do is if the coaching's not working, well, you might say, right, let's do 3 sessions and see, is this something that I can actually help you with? I'm not here to fail with my coaching. You know, it's taken me a long time to say, Dawn, but I slay in my lane. I absolutely slay at what I do. I'm damn good at what I do, and I know where my lane is. And I'm a very, very good coach. So I have a very, what's the word, robust onboarding the way that I onboard you as a coachee or as a client, I vet you heavily. And it's not because I say, well, you've got the money, you haven't. No, I want to know where your mindset is because I'm not here to play with you. I'm here to champion you, I'm here to challenge you, and I'm here to get you the shift that you want. So for me to do that, I will have a discovery call first, a chemistry call to make sure we're aligned. I will then send you a trauma-informed questionnaire, which is going to be every depth of your soul, I can promise you.
Wow.
And then once you do that, I then pull out all the themes of that and look at what kind of coaching methods am I going to use. And I don't preempt what the coaching sessions will look like because I go with energy. That's going back to my spiritual side. I need to go with your energy. I can look at your face and say, what's happening today? How are you? What do you want to bring to this session? We're going to talk about confidence or your relationship with money or whatever it is, but I sense that there's something more important that we need to talk about. So let's talk. We're going to talk about, let's get to what's going on with you. And then you might say, I'm breaking up with my partner, or my child got suspended from school, or there's redundancies going on and my best friends now are made redundant. That's important to you. Let's talk about that. Right. So pricing is difficult. And then because I offer an array of services for my clients, so I've got the corporate beehive, so I name everything. So I've got the courage to be, and as you so rightfully said, it's BEE like bumblebee. And that B stands for be everything extraordinary, because the courage to be is around the courage to be yourself, the courage to step into who you are. That's a part of my belonging package, right? So then I've got my corporate beehive, and the B for that one stands for belonging, empathy, and equity. So depending on what my client wants, I like to give options. So do you want option one? Is that just that you need me to come in and train the whole organization on communication style? Do you want me to train the organization on psychological safety? Do you want me to come and train your recruitment team on equitable recruitment or inclusive recruitment? Depending on what they want, and then we can mix and match. So they might say, right, Nick, I like that, I like that. Can I just put those two here and take that one from that one? So that's how our pricing will go, basically. So it completely depends on the need of the organization. And again, I tend to speak to the CEO first, coach the CEO for at least an hour, and then I train the senior leadership team. Because if it's tokenistic and disingenuous, I'm out. I'm not doing it. because
Okay.
it doesn't make sense.
To give us a range of prices, because we're black economics and we're about, how do we get people to earn it? So we need to have a range of prices.
Range of prices. So I would say
Coaching first, then
coaching, I would say, depending if it's personal coaching, we're going to go from anything from 200 up. If it's speaking, I'm now at 7.5 up. But then again, it's so difficult because I know you're about economics and people making the money. How can I put this? If it's corporate, it's going to be high end. And when we say high end, we're talking 10 grand onwards, right?
Yeah.
If it's corporate. And that's purely because they all have a budget for that. And it's knowing when to have that conversation and knowing your worth also. Okay? If it's a school, if it's third class, if it's third sector, then I'll be honest with you, I'll go and look at their accounts because you've got some charities that have got 2-3 million in the bank. Because no, but it's true though, right? There's some laws of there's some Nichole standards around this, yeah. Don't tell me if you don't. I saw it online. Yeah, I went to charity commissions and then people they're showing. Don't do that. But there's also other ways. Let's go to our ancestral ways. You can barter, right? So if you've got an organization that generally doesn't have the money, or it's an organization that you know that you're going to stand in front of 300 potential customers that you would not stand in front of. And they're saying to you, and this is especially when you're just starting out, right? If you're just starting out, you are not going to probably have those 300 people in front of you. Like I said, when you're speaking, you are a walking ad for your values of who you are. Yeah. Now, what you can say is that, okay, so you want this for free. Don't get it twisted. Say to them, normally, if you're charging your attendees, then you should pay your speakers. Simple as that. If it's not a free event, you should pay. We're not talking about corporate now. We're talking about corporate in a minute. So there's an argument to be had here. You're charging your attendees. Why can't you pay your speakers? Have it. Confidence. Step into your power. Ask them, right? Also, know the speaker that you are. Am I a keynote? Am I a middle person? Am I a closer? Look at who they are bringing. What's the story? Question them. So why are you having this conference? How do you want your people to feel when they leave? How am I going to add value to this? Ask them. Let them start to think. Not to think, oh yeah, I'm going to try to get Nichole for free. Don't do that. Then you're going to say, okay, so you're saying you want me pro bono, right? But you're charging your people. You're going to have maybe 300 people in the room. Tell them the maths. That's going to give you X, Y, and Z. If you're a VAT registered company, you're not even going to pay the VAT on that. Whatever it is, have the conversation. Then you're going to say, all right, but I want this because 300 customers, but I only want 2 of these customers. There's 300 of them. So let's not go too hardball. So if you do decide that you're going to do it pro bono, if you decide, which you can then say to them, okay, I want to do this pro bono. However, how many events do you have a year? You book me on 2 of those and you pay me for those. It's going to be contracted. You also say, okay, you don't have 2 a year. You've got 1 next year. Book me for that, but also introduce me to 2 people that you think could do with my services. Also, I want to go in your newsletter. Also, I want yeah, you see what I mean? There's ways to do things because if you know how to market yourself, you can then say, I did this for X, Y, and Z. I don't want to mention names but I've done this. So when you're going to ask about prices, Dawn, yes, it probably seems like I'm being cloak and dagger, but not necessarily because it depends. Yes, I've got my standard prices really around if I'm going to go in and do an hour session, right? I would have a standard around that. But then usually they're going to say, but Nick, can you do this for 3? Can you do it 3 times? Or I always get called back. I'm really, really lucky. I do get called back. It's very rare that I don't think I think
it's more about skill.
Yeah, you're right. So I will say, okay, I'll do that to 2.5 for like 45 minutes or whatever, like when I first started out. But I upskill myself, Dawn. I've spent a hell of a lot of money becoming a master coach to do all the stuff around the trauma informed stuff. I've learned about my industry, right? To have those negotiation skills, to have the brand that I have. Everything I have is branded. I looked at the B, so that's why I've got the B for that. It's just so people see that, yes, I've registered the names. You don't have to register. You can just do TM, but I've registered my programs. I did that on purpose, and a lot of that is around credibility, which I don't like because you've got some people that are just damn good at what they do, but they may not have the qualifications because they just don't. I know some damn good coaches who are not qualified. Do I think coaches should be qualified? Yes, I do. Why? Because you're stepping into trauma every day. and you don't want to re-traumatize someone. So that's my thing around coaching.
You can have a situation where somebody speaks to you and tells you their story, and you start to experience that trauma.
Right. Exactly. Because they re-traumatize you. Going back to our bias, when we think about, if I ever interviewed a woman and she says she's a single mum, instantly I have to check myself because I know that I'm going to feel an affiliation to her because I know how damn hard it is raising kids on your own. Straight away, I'm gonna have that infinity bias, that implicit bias towards her or him. Even if it's a man that says, got my kids on my own, I just need this job. We have to be mindful how we check them, check our habits, our patterns, and our behaviors. But going back to pricing, because a lot of the work I do has ended up being bespoke because they want more stuff. They end up because you upsell, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, and I don't sit there and say, well, if you give me this, I'll give you half price for that. Not at all. It's like this literally feeds into this, it feeds into this.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be an in-house consultant because I've got itchy feet on. I like to go in, fuck shit up and come back out, sorry. But I just like to go in and do that stuff, but I like to monitor. Just like with my coaching clients, I will say, with 12 to 15 sessions, I will say paid up front. I don't do pay as you go coaching. It's not my thing. If that's not your thing, I'm not your coach. No. Because if you're telling me that you want me to coach you, then you need to be dedicated to the time that I'm giving away. Because even before my coaching sessions, I've got to get grounded because I don't know what you're going to bring. And like you just so rightly said, you might trigger something in me. So I've got to be there with my sage and my palasente and doing my wusa shit afterwards. I don't know what's coming. So I know that when you've got me as your coach, you've got me, right? So for me, I always say 12 sessions paid upfront or 15 sessions, depending on what you've said to me in our chemistry call. And then we book our sessions in. And I'm committed to doing it. So I think when it comes to pricing, charge your worth. Charge your worth. And you know what? Someone said this to me when I first started my consultancy. I didn't do it, by the way, but I do say it to everyone else because it made me think. You've got 365 days in a year as a consultant, yeah, or as a business owner. Take out all the holidays, yeah, then that's gone down to whatever. We're just going to do fictitious. Sorry, I'm dyslexic, so all my words are going to come out wrong. But let's do fake numbers. So you take out all the holidays because technically you may not work on those days. But you're not going to have fee earning days because what we're looking at is not the one you work. Because Dawn, we work the hours, but we don't get paid for the hours we're working in the background. So let's look at our fee earning days. Take out all the holidays because more than likely you're not going to get work on a holiday day, right? Then we want to do is maybe remove the days that you might be sick. You might be sick. Just remove them anyway, yeah? It's the hours of the time's going down even more. Then take out the hours it takes for you for your preliminary work. How much does it take for you to actually create the work? Right? So your days are now going down. So say, for example, you end up with 60 days out of the year that's a fee earning day. You need to price yourself accordingly. You ain't got 365 days anymore. Do you understand what I mean? So now you've got to look at and say, right, so for me to be able to earn an income, suppose you say to yourself, well, I want to be earning 40K for the year, 50K for the year, 100K for the year, whatever your figure is, you've got to now make that out of those 60 days that you've got left. And that's how you find your day rate and your hourly rate. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for me, every time I do a qualification, my rates go up. I'm just letting people know. Letting people know every time.
Okay.
So I was told that, like I said, I didn't do that because I'd already had my rates. Or you can look at what the going rate is. So some people's £800 a day. I thought that was too low for me. I wasn't doing that. You could say, right, 1,005. If you feel you have a hitch in your stomach or your chest, you start thinking about your relationship with money. And you start thinking about why, when we went to £2,000 a day, it made you feel funny. Because I can promise you that consultants charging 6K a day.
Yeah.
So why are you charging £350? Check yourself.
Check
Or maybe
yourself.
that's your worth. Because the other thing is, if you don't think you're valued, if you don't think you're worth the money, why the hell should I? You give your rates with a straight face and every piece of chest in your bones. So when it comes to pricing, like I said, it does depend. But yes, I do have corporate packages, and I also have I do have third sector, and then I for me, I used to do 4 pro bono a year. I now do 6. And that's purely because I want to give back and pay forward. Mainly that surrounds violence against women and girls or abuse on a whole. But I will give back since. I'll do it.
Okay. You've done a book,
I,
a gift. Tell us about the book.
that book. So the gift it's quite funny because I felt like when I wrote that book, that's my gift. So basically, it's a multi-author book with 26 other women. I think it's about 26 of us telling our stories. So we've all got a chapter each. And I thought that was a good way to get into being a published author. And all of you, trust me, you've got a book out there. Everyone's got a book in them. You know this, Miss Author. Like, I was like, what? You know this. Everyone's got a book in them, right? But it's taking the time to write it. They say that everyone has a book, but only 1%. And I'm so glad I'm in that 1% of people actually do it. Actually, yeah, actually write and become a published author. Because there's a difference. Yeah. Yeah. So, you're up there. So when I was gonna write this book, I was thinking, what can I write about? Then you start thinking about society, like, oh, let me do something frilly. And then I noticed that lots of people were talking about this is how I became a billionaire or millionaire. And I didn't want to do that either. Um, because we all have pitfalls and stuff. And I said to my husband, I was like, oh God, Maverick. Because in a past life, I was a trained dominatrix, successfully trained dominatrix and a phone sex operator for like 30 years. I've gone back to doing it now, mind you, for research purposes. She said, for research purposes. And that just kept pulling me. And I was like, oh my God, I can't be telling people that. Because when I won my first award in 2019, I was doing the dominatrix stuff then. And I pulled my website down, I came off everything, like everything. I had like 175,000 followers on Instagram. I came off, I was so scared that it was going to be national mention of the year, dominatrix. But like, there was a shame around it. Like, was my family going to think all of that stuff that comes with it? But it kept pulling me to write about it. And I tell you what it was, Dawn. When I think about dominatrix, I mean, I've worked in the corporate world. I've been a manager, director, all of that stuff. And I've always done this kind of sex industry stuff as a side hustle. But one thing I realized in the moment when I was thinking about it, belonging. People wanted to belong. And because sex is such a taboo, we don't talk about it. And it was a space for them to belong, especially in the kink world. I have said this before and I'll say it again, and there may be people out there that's had different experiences, but this is my story, right? I find the BDSM world and the kink world, which is like a 50 Shades of Grey times 1,000, for those of you who's thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I find it one of the most purest scenes I have been in. Really? I do, because it's about permission and consent. It's about trust. I ain't feeling that shit in the corporate world. I'm sorry. The amount of jobs I have, because I used to do a lot of temping work, right? And the amount of times I've had someone pull me to the side and say, you see here, CYA, yeah? CYA. CY what? Cover your ass. Right? So you go in and you have to make sure that everything has a paper trail because it's got that blame culture, passive aggressiveness, all of that politics. Oh, Nichole didn't do this. Oh, Nichole didn't do that. Oh, Nichole didn't tell me this, as an example, right? When I look at this world, how do you tell someone I like a certain level of sex, or I like this kink, or I like whatever? So I wrote my chapter and it basically says, how does a phone sex operator meet the corporate world? And how are the parallels? Because I just saw this, it was a feeling, going back to feeling and embodiment. I want to feel accepted. I want to feel like I belong. So yes, it's two completely different paths. We've got the corporate, very what's the word? Very suited and booted. And then you've got the sex industry, the sex world, the kink world, the bondage world. So my book really talks about my journey and how I see the two and how the two are parallel. They're more or less, to me, people are people. Basically, people are people. And we want to feel seen, heard, welcome, valued, and accepted, regardless of what we like and don't like. So that's what I would say.
That's when you lots of time you have to repeat the way it's pretty reserved on the table. We give it another 10 minutes here, then we move, yeah?
My piercing looks so nice. Sorry, I've got a new nose piercing. It's new.
Yes, I see your four place piercings.
I know. 4 or 5.
Well, God, piercing.
I have more than 5. I have one that you can't see.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, when yeah,
No
no.
more details.
Okay, yeah, you like yeah.
Okay. Right. I wanted to get into resilience and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
So please provide 3 examples of rough times in your life, really hard times that you've had, and how you overcame these times.
Mm. There's been a few, babe. There's been a few. Um, I think with growth, with maturity. Because when I was younger, I was a hothead, man. I'm a Taurus. So, but I think well, I'm trying to think of what really. One of them really, to me, was a rough time. Was when I moved to Jamaica,
How old were you then?
14.
So you were born and brought up here, and then your parents decided to send you to Jamaica to boarding school.
Because I was
At
very,
14.
because I was so good here that I was being sent to Jamaica.
You mean you were the opposite?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, I was a rebel.
You were going off the rails.
Yeah, yeah, I was that girl. I told you I'm the black sheep. I was the rebel. Yeah, I ran away from home. Ran away from home. Was stealing. I was just yeah.
Confession
I
time.
used to fight the teacher. Yeah, that's bad girl, man. Yeah, because I used to fight.
And your mum couldn't take it anymore.
She
She
was like,
shipped
right,
you off.
shit, you to make. Well, apparently, my brother, who was like excelling, A student, everything, she said to him, right, you can, because we've got family in Jamaica, Canada, and America. She said to him, do you want to go to Jamaica, Canada, or America? Because you've got to go with Nikki to make sure she's okay. So he chose Jamaica.
Oh, I see.
He would have been 15 going to be 16.
Oh, that's a pretty short time just before GCSE. How did he feel about that?
He was well excited.
How was
Jamaica.
he?
I think so. I should ask him. I don't know. I wasn't happy. I didn't care about anyone else's feelings.
You weren't happy?
No.
Sorry.
Yes. Who wants to go? I was so like, I was like, I don't want to go.
Oh my God, when you're 14 and your parents want to ship you off and you have no choice. Wow. So how did it happen? They just say this is the flight booked.
And then, yeah, my mum took
And
us.
this is where oh, she took you.
And as I said, when I got
Did she actually tell you this was going to happen, or did she take you on
She was
holiday? Because
threatening me
I've
for
heard of that happening.
Yeah, but they just
Take
take
people on
you.
holidays
Yeah.
and they leave you.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen to us. Yeah, I heard about that. I've heard that to a couple of like Ghanaian friends of mine. Yeah, that happened to them.
Really? Oh,
But no,
wow.
that didn't happen to me. My mum was threatening me for ages. So she was I saying whatever. But yeah, she did. In the end, she did. I hated it.
Really?
And then, because my family's very strict over there, and like I said, even though they had money, cars, properties, or everything, and like it was a different lifestyle because that's not what I was used to here in the UK. My mum was brought up like that, so she had that level when she raised us. So my mum had a governess when she was working, when she, so hence we had the set table, we had all these things, with beautiful house, massive. We had all of that growing up here, but my mum, when we went to Jamaica, that's where most of the family was. So we didn't have a big family here at all. So when I got there, yes, there was the gardener, yes, there was the person that cooks your food and all of that. But I didn't like them. I didn't like Jamaica. I don't know. It's again. That was really tough for me. I cried all the time.
Oh, how long were you there for?
Too long. No, I'm joking. I like it now. I mean, how long was I in Jamaica? It felt like a really long time, but for probably 4 years. 4 years. That's when I met my husband.
Oh.
So he made me fall in love with Jamaica and him. But I hated it. I hated the mosquitoes, the lizards, the accent, the food. Even though I had the food at back,
Even the food you hated.
I think I was just being rebellious.
Okay.
I didn't even change the time on my watch. And that every morning, because it was boarding school, you had to sing the national anthem. I refused to sing. I was like, I was really, really. And how did I deal with that? Because that was your question. I just prayed I was going to leave at that point. But then I met Maverick. And then he started to tell me about Jamaica. We started to have really good conversations. I would tell him about England, and we would just.
Oh.
And then I think I just found not just someone I fell in love with, but a friend who was my best friend. Because it was tough. It was really tough being English, being a boy. Yeah. Although there was other English people there and stuff like that. And I think that's where I really did see my resilience in a way. My brother was obviously there, but he was a guy I was, and I felt that different, that shifting what the boys do, what the girls do. Like all the girls had to go to church and wear white on a Sunday. We had no choice. The boys didn't. All that kind of stuff. And I was there looking for women's rights, like what we're doing. That's not. I was all of that. I was that girl. Was another time. I think when I realized I was going to be a single mother, I never wanted that for my kids. When I realized that I was going to have.
Was that when you were here or
No, so when I came back to, so my mom found out that I was seeing my dog, that I had a boyfriend. She brought me back to England.
Wow.
That was another hard time. That was absolutely devastating. So I went from hating Jamaica to when I came back to England, missing Jamaica and missing Maverick, obviously. So that was my boyfriend, and we always said we were going to get married, which we did eventually, but just not the route that we expected because I was taken away from him. So when I came back, that was tough. That was the broken heart. I think everyone's first broken heart, but that was a broken heart in a different way. It wasn't through like.
So you weren't able to keep in touch?
No, I didn't. I wasn't sure because he just started going to teachers college at that time because he's older than the same age as my brother. So he had just left high school and had gone into teachers college. So I didn't really have the address or the numbers. I tried to find them and stuff, but yeah, that was devastating. I didn't think I'd be able to breathe without him. Was one of those.
Right.
So it's like you've got this hardcore rebel over here, but then I've got my So that I think that was tough. But that was more kind of childhood in a way, coming into adult years. But now the way I deal with stuff is completely different. But I think it's always been in me. What will be, will be. I always believe in what will be. And I always believed that my nan used to say it a lot. What's for you won't pass you. What's meant for you won't pass you. And you always hear these little sayings, when one door opens, when one door closes, the other's open. I used to go, where's the door at? Where's the door?
Yeah.
But I get that in my coaching sessions where people say, Nichole, I'm always being made redundant, or I'm applying for jobs and I can't get a job. And the way that I now look at this whole door thing, I just think that when that door that you're looking to be opened hasn't opened, because your door's being built. Your door's not ready to open because it's not finished being made. Because sometimes you'll be amazed, you'll go for a job, someone will say, we've never had this role before, this role on CV, and we just thought, this is perfect for you. Things can be created.
Yeah.
And that's how I deal with things. Even now on stage, it's like, for example, I spoke at a festival last year for my other business, Channeling and Mistress. And when you go to festivals, you've got a list of all the things and all the talks that's going to be taking place at the same time. And I was convinced that nobody was going to come to my talk. I was like, you've got soundbar stuff, you've got all the proper spiritual stuff going on, because it was like a festival that was ending violence against women and girls and trafficking in India. So it was a massive festival, and I just thought no one's going to come to Channeling and Mistress. Who's going to come to my stuff? And I ended up, we had to turn people away. The room was absolutely packed. I even took 15 more people in the room was supposed to take. And it was in those moments like that, especially during my belonging business and talking about my life as a dominatrix and phone sex operator and all of that stuff that I was hiding. I genuinely believe that anything I do, whoever's meant to hear this podcast is meant to hear it. And whoever's not meant to hear it just wasn't meant to.
Yeah.
And if I don't say something that I don't walk away thinking, oh shit, should have said this to Dawn, or I should have made myself look more like this or more. No. Whatever I'm meant to say today is what I'm meant to say. And I think I was speaking at the Baton Awards a few years ago, because I won a Baton Award and I was asked to speak there. And that's a Black-owned business, and support it where you can. And I remember it was the first time I think that I was going to speak about slides. And I thought, oh, shit, this is like a TED Talk type thing. I'm going to do that. I didn't have that flow. Remember, I was saying to you, the way my dyslexic brain works, I can't be scripted. So anything you ask me now, if I sound like I'm hitching, it's because I'm going with the energy and I'm just speaking whatever I remember. I can't read something and remember it. Hence, exams just are not good for me and other neurodivergent people. And I remember standing there and shaking. I remember thinking, shit. And I remember just literally closing my eyes and saying, ancestors, rise. spirit guides protect me and just guide me to whatever I need to say. And that's what I do now. I just genuinely believe that my ancestors, I used to put crystals in my bra, but but I genuinely believe that what I'm meant to say and what I'm meant to deliver and who I'm meant to work with, that's how it is. And it sounds maybe airy fairy, but that's how I operate. And it keeps me in flow.
Okay. Tell us how you felt when you were becoming a single parent.
Becoming a sin. I felt I failed my children. I really did. I felt that my kids are princes, they're kings now. I felt they deserved that two parent. Remember, I'm from a family where I'm the only single mother as well. So I already, knowing that that was about to happen as well, I was like, oh God, now it's even worse than before. And I didn't know if I could do it. I was raising two black boys. And, I lived in Croydon, wasn't the Croydon it is now. But when my eldest son was going to go to school, he was going to go to the school that had that massive story around the honey pot. And I don't know if you remember that story, that this little boy was basically lured to Thornton Heath by a girl and they murdered him, and horrific. And that's, that was like the start of the post-Cold Wars and all of that gang stuff that was going on that started to happen in Croydon and spill over. So even before all of that, and my son was born in January, 31st of January. On 22nd of April of the same year, my birthday, Stephen Lawrence was murdered. And I remember breastfeeding my son, looking at him thinking, what have I done bringing you into this world? Like, how am I going to protect my beautiful black prince? And then I had his brother, and I just thought, I just thought, how am I going to do this? And then coming from Jamaica, because I had my son quite soon after, coming from Jamaica as well, and in Jamaica, they don't hide from the dark history. I don't call it black history. I don't call slavery black history, by the way. That was history that we were dragged in. That is not just our history, it's world history, right? Yeah. So this black history bullshit, don't do that. It's not that. This is a history that everything was taken from us out of greed of the Western world. But don't even get me started on all of them. So my mum, what I didn't say about my mum is like, if she could resurrect Black Panther, she would. She's that girl. Even now, going on 80, she made sure we knew our history, every part of it, not the dark part of it. She taught us. So we've been always unapologetically black. That has never been an issue. So much so that I used to cry and say, why am I so light? Why am I so... Yeah, I always wanted to be darker.
You didn't go to those tanning salons, did you? I know some people tried
did they?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Get darker.
No. And the thing is, I just swear I've got lighter in older age. But people always think I'm mixed, and I'm not. And I remember, actually, going off topic, but it's just reminded me of something. I remember I was doing a session on race, and this guy was like, as I walked in the room, I felt his energy, and it wasn't good energy. Oh. And I knew, because I walk in the room, and I have this thing where I stand and I do the coach in silence, and I scan the room, and I look, and I make eye contact, because I can see the ones who are like, oh, black woman, no thanks. What you just know, right? And this guy, he was like, why we always took, he was like, one thing I want to ask Nichole, and he kind of leaned back and I could see the smugness, and I thought, in my head, I thought, do you know what? I'm ready for you to, whatever you're about to say to me, I'm ready for you, right? And I remember he said to me, well, what is it about slavery? That was in the past. Why are we still talking about slavery? And I remember I looked to my right like this. He's like, where you are. And I said, such a good question. And I've been waiting for someone just like you to answer it. Because what's what, I'm running my business, yeah? And as far as I'm concerned, don't book me again then. You see, in this moment, I'm not going to have anyone that's going to try and gaslight me, who's going to try to undermine me. And I'm here to educate you. That's why I'm standing here and you're not. So I said to him, I'm so glad that you've asked me that question. I said, let me tell you all the story. And this time he felt the shuffle because my tone, I've gone into Mistress tone now, haven't I? So I've gone into, so when I was a mistress, I was called Lady Velvet, and I bring her forward when I need to, because Lady Velvet doesn't take anything. So innately, I'm very shy. No one believes that, Dawn, but I'm an introvert and I'm shy. I've had to learn, right? Being a single mum, being a business owner, being a woman, being a woman, all of the stuff that comes with the stuff that we carry. And I thought, I'm ready for you. So I said to him, everyone, can I tell you all a little story while I answer this question? You've got the very uncomfortable nods. You've got the curious side eye. And I thought, watch me and you. I said to him, okay, so my mum has 2 houses. She's got one in Discovery Bay and one in Runaway Bay. Now, the one in Discovery Bay used to be owned by the Masters. Yeah? And I said, when I sit on my mum's veranda and I look to the left, she has a massive cannon, and right next to the wall, it says 1818 on it. And I said, when I sit on the veranda and have breakfast with my family, I can see the sea. If I put my chin here, that's the sea, all the way to here, right? Because this was a prime house and location. I said, not just that, guess why it's called Discovery Bay? I said, because Christopher Columbus discovered it. And I said, and let me give you an example. That's like you sitting in your front room, someone kicking up your door and saying, I've just discovered this house where everybody's living in it. And at this point, people are shrinking in their seats, but I wasn't done. And I said, and the house in Runaway Bay. So when I write to my mother, when I look at her letters, when I'm getting a taxi from Discovery Bay to Runaway Bay, and I said, and on that, you see all the sugar cane. You know what we have in our teas and our coffees and our sweeteners, the sugar canes. And I said, I'll tell you something else. When I'm driving around Jamaica, I feel the hum of my ancestors. I said, let me tell you something else about Discovery Bay. We found a mass grave of slaves, I think you call them, or enslaved. This be answering the man, you know. Okay. So, and I said to him, and then let me give you my mic drop to the end of this story. So we've got Runaway Bay, where all the slaves ran to. We've got Discovery Bay that was discovered, right? So when you're going to tell me not to mention slavery, we live it every single day because we're reminded, right? And I said, and let me give you the last bit. When I look in the mirror, I wear slavery as a badge, as a tag. Because my name's McGill. I am not Scottish, but my ancestors, due to what they did to my ancestors, you see, when I finished telling this guy this story, he actually apologized. And I said to him, so don't you ever question slavery to a black woman or a black man again, ever, and go and learn your history, where your banks came from. I was not happy, Dawn. I was so annoyed. Like, how dare you want to question slavery? Because clearly you don't know it. And if you wait to know where it came from and how it was accepted, oh yeah, it was a business, was it? Go and learn it. Learn your history. It is not black history. It's world history. It's something that we're still paying for. We're in the city now. You feel the blood money here. Don't do that. So when I was educated in Jamaica, they didn't move from it. They taught us the middle passage. There's books and books and books. We're not taught it here. And that's why so many people in the UK were shook after George Floyd, because they don't know the history. We're not taught the history. Tate Modern, it was Tate and Lau before. Know the history. I mean, I'm not saying I know all of it, but I know enough to say, don't question. Don't try and belittle me and embarrass me when I can tell you that you may not live it, but in 2025, my mother still has two houses in Discovery Bay and Runaway Bay. And I hear the taxis, Runaway Bay, Discovery Bay, Ochi, Portmore, wherever they're going, right? Falmouth, Mabay. The history's there. So when I'm being told that we found a mass grave on the land that my mother lives on, when I'm looking and seeing a massive frigging cannon that was used for what? When my mom has the house that probably my ancestors' blood ran rivers. Don't ever tell me why are we still talking about slavery. My question is, what have you done about it? It's not just what we should talk about, because our history did not start there. That's what annoys me. They make it sound like that's where we started. No, we did not. But what annoys me also is that it's black history. No, it friggin' isn't. Don't do that. So yeah, so I can't remember how we got here, but that's how I had to answer that. And I'm telling you, when I was saying it, I was trembling. Because remember, this is my job at the time, right? This is me speaking to a group of people that's paying me to educate them. And this is why in my contracts, I say, any session that I do, you make sure that everyone's got at least half an hour to decompress. Because I'm coming with, like you said, I'm coming with the power. I haven't got time to mess around, because I don't know who in that room I shifted that day, but I know I did. And someone needed to hear it, and many do. And that's why I get the feedback that I get. Like I said, I'm not for everyone. I'm not sitting there saying I'm perfect. But what I am saying to everyone listening to this, be you. Be you. The more authentic I became in my role, where I didn't try to adhere to corporate lives. I've got, well, I had 2 tattoos, and then since the pandemic, I've probably got 11 more, right? They're all spiritual tattoos. You can see that I've got piercings. This nose piercing is 2025 piercing, right? I've got
Okay.
piercings up to my yin yang because they all mean something to me. I go on stage now and I don't wear shoes. I'm barefooted. I will be dressed like this or suited even. I don't even wear suits because I'm always sweating. Menopause is killing me out here. And plus I was always hot anyway. But I go barefooted because it's what grounds me. It's what grounds me. And I would say to all of us, yes, we do have to sometimes code it, but know that you're coding on your terms, not because you feel belittled or shrunk or less than. If you know, for example, if I'm going to have a meeting, Etihad is one of my clients, right? And I did an International Women's Day talk for Etihad although I didn't fly out there because I couldn't get to go in the end. So I'm going to cover up. But you're going to respect the culture.
Yeah.
There's a difference between respecting people's cultures and who they are than belittling yourself and not owning your own value. And if it compromises you, then no. In Jamaica, in the countryside, I haven't seen it in Kingston, there's this little plaque that people might have in their shops. It always makes me laugh. I don't speak Patois well. I understand it, but I don't speak it. And that's it's almost a given with me and my husband when we got married. Like, you don't lose your accent and you don't lose yours kind of thing. So I'll say it in English, and it basically says, don't ask me for credit. Because if I don't give it to you, you're vexed. And if I do give it to you and you don't give it back, me vex, better you vex. And sometimes when I feel like I'm compromising my soul or something about what I'm about to do, I'm like, no, you know what? It's better you vex than me. Because this is a whole wild world of business. We do not have to stay within our communities or even in our country. There is money to be made, and your impact and your voice, it matters. Find it. Find it.
It sounds to me like you need to do a book around Black history
God.
and slavery. I love the way that you summarized its effects there. You know, not just what happened, but how it's affecting us even in this day.
Absolutely. You know, look in the mirror. I'm not thinking. I mean, I know that you have got light-skinned people like the Yoruba tribe in Nigeria. I know there are light-skinned people, but I also know that my name's McGill and I'm a direct descendant from what they've done to our to my ancestors. So don't get that twisted. You know, don't get that. Don't ever get that twisted. And my mum made sure that we were firm in our blackness, extremely firm. Yeah, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to. There's one topic I actually don't talk about, but yeah.
All right.
Which is colorism, by the way. I'll say it, but I don't talk about it.